Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm super honored to be part of this session. And as we have only 5 minutes, I will start right away. I called my presentation Resource Recovery from Wastewater through Innovative Technologies, which is super broad title indeed. As I had some discussion with Professor Matějka later, so for this presentation I also chose one sort of more narrow project that I will present here with 2 or 3 slides. So resource recovery from wastewater, that's basically the broad topic of my research group. We work mainly with municipal wastewater, partially with industrial, and what I present here in this slide is the conventional approach of wastewater treatment, where you, I don't know, does something of this work? If not, you produce wastewater in a city, and then you send it somewhere away from the city so that you don't see it, then you don't smell it. And then you put a lot of energy, you put a lot of materials, you produce a lot of greenhouse gases, you produce a lot of solid waste also, and you produce clean water, or at least treated water, which is supposed to be clean. So I call this linear approach. That's the term how we call this. You see really line. And what is interesting of this, I call it of present, but actually this is an approach which is already thousands of years old. This is the approach that already old Romans used in Rome to extract somewhere very clean water, then to use it and to send it away into the river. This approach has indeed a lot of drawbacks. First of all this production of waste. And what we try to do in our group, and along with many other groups around the world, we try to make the approach much more cycle. We try to see wastewater as a resource of energy, resource of all sorts of materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, but also organic materials or metals, and indeed also source of water. And now we not only aim at this central approach where you have a central stream of wastewater, we also try to do all sorts of decentralized cycles that may be often very much more efficient. One picture of all, again I said the circular approach of future. This future is already becoming true. This is a picture of one of the cities which is currently built on these principles. It's somewhere in Abu Dhabi, I think. But yeah, our cities do not need to look this futuristic, but still we do need to embrace these circular ideas. Here I put very broad and complex overview of different PhD students, of different PhD projects that we have here. I don't have time to explain everything, but I just want to stress that the core of what we do is anaerobic digestion, so the process of biological production of biogas. And for today, the concrete project, I chose actually nitrogen removal from the effluent from these anaerobic digesters, because if you use anaerobic digestion for wastewater treatment, you always need to do something about nitrogen afterwards. What we do currently, we either try to recycle nitrogen as N2O, nitrous oxide, or we simply remove it as a nitrogen gas through some innovative processes. So I will focus a little bit on that. I focus on this nitrogen production through Anaerobic bacteria. I don't know whether ever somebody of you heard about Anaerobic bacteria, but the cycle here that I show is the conventional, indeed very simplified, but nitrogen cycle as it had been known for hundreds of years, I would guess, almost. At least until late 90s. And in late 90s, the process of Anamux was discovered. Basically, it's shortcut. Normally, if you have, here down there, ammonia, that's the main waste product of our organisms as nitrogen. What you have to do if you want to remove it from, for instance, wastewater, you first need to do nitrification. So you need to oxidize ammonia all the way to nitrate, and then you reduce it with denitrification to nitrogen gas. This is indeed costly because you have to supply a lot of oxygen, and also you have to supply electron donors, typically organic compounds. This Anamux process has the advantage over this nitrification, denitrification, that you save a lot of oxygen, especially this oxygen for oxidation of nitrite to nitrate, and also all the electron donors. So, this is simplified reaction of Anamux, ammonia plus nitrite, and nitrogen is produced. Indeed, it was discovered in the 90s, and surprisingly, even though nobody knew about this process until then, nowadays we estimate that over 50% of all natural nitrogen cycle goes through Anamux process. For us as the engineers responsible for wastewater treatment, this is nice because we can save 50% of oxygen. We also save these electron donors. The problem of these bacteria is that they grow super slow, and they are also very dependent on temperature. Do I have 1 minute more? Okay. I will skip one slide, and I will go to the project that I wanted to present. What we do, we take these Anamux bacteria and we try to adapt them to low temperatures that you need in wastewater treatment. What we do is so-called cold shocks, so we expose Anamux bacteria to low temperature, about 5 degrees, very abruptly. And then we look at the activity of this bacteria, whether it was improved or not. Indeed, we already know that with this approach, we can improve quite severely activity of the bacteria at low temperatures. This is a paper that we published recently. Cold shocks are already known, but for Anamux, it's the first experiment that showed the usability of these. Now we are in the process of looking for the adaptation mechanism which is responsible for this activity increase. So we cooperate with a number of groups among UCT Prague, actually. And we look at cold shock proteins, we look at ladderants composition. That's something that I didn't have time to explain. And we also try to extract some of the lipids from this bacteria. Okay, so I try to be as fast as possible. Now, thank you for your attention, and this is indeed the group that is responsible for many of these projects. Without them, indeed, that would not work. So thank you very much.